Hi, in this tutorial we're going to review the IP addressing and basic commissioning of our managed switches. The two software applications that you will need is going to be the High Discovery application as well as the High View application. You will find the links in the description below. The High Discovery application is an application utilized for the purposes of assigning IP addresses to the switches. When you launch the application, you may find that the scan of your newly powered and connected switches came up empty. This may be because of the fact that your wireless card was selected as the default, and simply click on the drop down. Make sure that your LAN NIC is selected instead, and upon doing so you should then see the respective switches show up in the list. Out of the box, factory fresh switches do not have an IP address, so in this case this is a factory default switch right here. And what I can do is I can signal the switch just to verify that this is truly the switch that I want to assign an IP address, and by clicking this I can see all of the LEDs oscillate back and forth, indicating that this is the switch that I want to address. I can then double click on this and I can then assign an IP address, and also give this a name before hitting the OK. What I can also do is, because I know that I'm going to assign additional switches an IP address, I can save this as the default and very easily assign IP addresses to the other switches later on. So I'm going to click on OK, and we have now assigned this switch an IP address. This is all there is to it. Just to show you the default settings that I indicated earlier, I'm going to select this switch. Simply by clicking the Set Default, it auto-populates these fields. I then only need to assign the last set of digits for the IP address, and there we go. It makes for very quick commissioning of multiple switches. You'll notice that I've accidentally entered the same IP address for two devices. They show up red, indicating a conflict. And let me revert this back to the .3. So there we have all of the IP addresses. We can also sort by MAC address, IP address, by name, so it offers a lot of flexibility. And what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to ping the device, because the fact that it shows up here in High Discovery does not necessarily mean that I can connect to it over a network, either pinging or to access the web page. So I'm going to go ahead and ping this, and yes, I can connect to it. I will now go to the web browser. Clicking this is the same as launching a web browser manually, and here you will notice that this is running Java. If you have a Java error, please download and install the latest version of Java from java.com. It is the big red button on the Java website. On their homepage, it makes for a very quick install, and you should then be able to access the this page right here. Alternately, you can also download High View. High View is our standalone web browser management screen or management interface that has Java embedded in it. This is an application that you can actually launch from a USB flash drive. You don't need admin rights. It does not actually install itself on your PC, and it is a standalone application. So in this case we're going to go ahead and run this. We have the login screen, and you'll notice that it defaults to the user. This is a read-only access. The password is already provided, so if I were to click on OK, I would gain read-only access. But because we want to make some changes, we're going to switch this to admin, and we're going to enter the admin password that can be found in your manual. And here we have the dashboard for the switch. In this case, this is an RS20, indicated right here. It's an RS20 0800. The 20 indicating that all ports are 10100. It has 8 ports of fast Ethernet. The 00 indicates the number of gigabit Ethernet ports. There are none. The T1 indicates the 2 backbone or uplink ports on this switch. They're both copper. The SDAP indicates the standard operating temperature. The P indicates the firmware rev. This is a professional switch. It has a few added features as opposed to the enhanced. The Pro offers DHCP server by port, cable diagnostics, and a few other security features. The A is a indication of the approval types that this switch has, and in this case it also has both power connections connected to a power supply, and it has been up and running for 33 minutes. Down at the bottom you'll see a timer that is timing down or counting down, and what it's going to do in 13 seconds here is it's going to reload this screen. So while it is a static screen, it automatically does reload every 90 seconds. And if you've entered any information in this screen and it times out, you will lose that information. You will need to click the Set button in order for any changes to take effect. So that said, before this times out again, I'm going to enter a location of this switch. We've already given it a name, so the location of this switch is in panel 2, door 1. And I would like for the person to contact me or 717-491-1770. This way they can contact me if they have any questions. I'm going to go ahead and click Set before I leave this page. And when I click Set, you'll notice that the load save here has changed to a warning triangle. This is because all of these changes that I've made reside in what is known as volatile memory. So if I were to power cycle this switch, I would lose these changes. In order to hard set these changes, I need to go to the load save screen and click on the save button. By clicking on the save button, this permanently stores the configuration or the changes that I've made into the non-volatile memory, and they now become permanent, meaning that if I were to power cycle the switch, I will have retained the settings that I've just made. So going back to the dashboard, I also have a illustration of the switch itself. Hovering over the ports gives me an indication of the settings, and these ports here are empty. They're still turned on. Here I can set my IP address. It's currently static, but I can also set it for DHCP or bootp. Here I can either disable the high discovery protocol so that the switch cannot be found, or, as I recommend to most people, I suggest changing this instead of read-write to read-only. By converting this to read-only, the high discovery protocol will still find the switch, but in this case it is no longer writable. So if I were to try to change the IP address, I can no longer do this and potentially cause a conflict with another device on the network. So because of our need to potentially change it again. I'm going to change this back to read write. So next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the software or the firmware in this switch. The firmware on this switch is 8.0.07. The latest version that I have available to me is a 9.0. I believe we're shipping a 9.0.03. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to go in and install the latest version that is available to me, which is the 9.0. So I'm going to browse to it. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to click on Update. The update takes about 2 minutes, almost to the second, and we will be back as soon as it's done. So the update for this switch has completed. We've received a notification that the update is completed successfully. I'm going to click on OK, and we're going to click on Reload. And you'll notice the stored version is the 9.0, whereas the running version is the 8.0.07. So it is stored the latest version of the firmware, the update, in its memory. And what we're going to do is we're going to activate that firmware by clicking on the cold restart. This is a full reboot of the switch, and during the reboot the switch is going to reboot on the new firmware. What this is for is this is so that the switch virtually can't be bricked in the event of a failed firmware update or power loss during the update or a communication loss during the update. And it is a very effective means of accomplishing this. And it'll be another second or two. I just heard a click. This is the fault relay in the switch that is just triggered, indicating that the switch is just rebooted. And there we have the switch back. And we're going to go back into the web management. And you will notice that the running firmware on this is now the 9.0. Here we have complete control over our ports. We can name the ports. So I can call this the PLC. I can call this the workstation. And I can also turn off any unused ports. I know that these ports here are occupied because of the indication here of the current link speed and whether it's full duplex or half duplex. In the event that we have a duplex mismatch, that the device is not auto-negotiating correctly, we can then hard set the port speeds as well. I can also enable what is known as a link loss alarm. The link loss alarm will give me an alarm notification either through the fault relay or through an SNMP trap that the switch can send out into the network. If we now take a look at our dashboard again, you will see that the ports have a bar through them indicating that these ports have been turned off. So these ports are no longer accessible by someone from the outside, and these ports here are still turned on. Next, we have our security, the SNMP passwords that you can change. You can enable or disable SNMP version 1 or 2. You can enable the web server or disable the web server from here. You can also enable HTTPS, disable the telnet, dictate as to what port to use. Here you can dictate as to what management station has access to the management interface of this switch. So in this case, if I were to restrict it such that only I would have access to this, I would put the IP address of my laptop in this. And then we have port security. What port security allows one to do is dictate as to which device, either by MAC address or IP, one is allowed to use. I'm not 100% sure as to how many MAC addresses a single port can have assigned to it. This is where the help button down here on the lower right hand side comes in very handy. If you click this, it pulls up a page specific help screen and guide. And if we scroll through here, we will see that you can enter up to 50 MAC addresses per port, or in terms of IP addresses, you can have 10 IP addresses per port. So again, the user interface comes in very, very handy to provide guidance through some of the screens that may not be very obvious, or where any questions may be had. Looking further through the menu, we also have multicasts. So if someone is utilizing IGM or is utilizing Ethernet IP, you can enable IGMP snooping, and what IGMP snooping will do is offer multicast filtering. And the process to enable this is to turn it on. At least one switch on the network should have the querier active. If more than one has the querier active, there will be an election. I believe it is the lowest IP address will win, and it then is the IGMP querier on that network. And unknown multicasts are typically discarded. Known multicasts are sent to the registered ports, and for 95% of applications, this is all that's necessary in order to enable multicast filtering. It's then just a matter of clicking set, and obviously again going back to the load save screen and clicking the save button. Next, we also have VLANs. We can do VLANs by port. Some of our switches can also do it by protocol. We also have QoS, or quality of service. We offer redundancy in both link aggregation. Link aggregation is something that our Pro switches offer. It is not something that is available in our enhanced switches. We offer ring redundancy. For ring redundancy, we support both hyperring and MRP in this switch. The enhanced switch offers both as well. So hyperring is a proprietary protocol, whereas MRP is an IEC spec, so it's an industry standard spec. And to enable this, you dictate as to which ones are your ring ports. It defaults to ports 1 and 2. The advanced mode has rapid spanning tree protocol compatibility. So if you're mixing and matching rapid spanning tree and MRP, this needs to be enabled. One of the switches on the ring needs to have the ring manager enabled. Then it is a matter of turning it on. It supports both 200 millisecond ring recovery or 500 millisecond recovery. And that is all there is to it. We can do other forms of redundancy. We can connect two rings together utilizing ring coupling or network coupling. Some of the illustrations and capabilities are depicted here. And we then obviously also support rapid spanning tree protocol. This is the Office Enterprise redundancy mechanism that allows you to create meshes and the like. The default setting on this is on, so that it from the factory it is enabled, and out of the box it prevents loops. So it's a very useful feature to have, and the configuration does require a little bit of work. It's obviously significantly more involved as compared to the hyperring or MRP protocols. Next, we have diagnostics. For diagnostics, one of the most commonly utilized features is the statistics table. This is where someone that's having communication issues can look at fragments received, CRC errors or collisions, and if any of the ports are indicating any reasonable value of errors, that is likely going to be where these errors are originating from, and that would be the port or the device or connected device that needs to be looked at and scrutinized a little bit. We can also alarm based upon utilization and look at the amount of utilization because this switch is just a static switch. There's no real data flowing through it, which is why you don't see any network traffic on here. And next, if this switch utilized SFPs, we would be able to see the temperature of that device, the transmit and receive power of the device as well. This allows you to assess your signal strength and any possible degradation of the signal over time. Next, we have port mirroring. This is if we are to use an application such as Wireshark to mirror ports, to do a packet capture, and to do some more in-depth troubleshooting. Next, device status. This is where the alarms would be generated. So you may find that if you only connect a single power supply, that you have a fault on that switch. This fault can easily be rectified by ignoring the second power supply as such, and one can then enable temperature monitoring, link loss alarms, and if in a ring, the ring ports as well, just to ensure the integrity of the network ring redundancy. And it's then just a matter of clicking set. The alarms are either sent out through a fault relay or through the use of what is known as an SNMP trap. An SNMP trap is a notification that's sent through the network to either a network management software application that supports SNMP or an OPC server that also supports SNMP, so that OPC server will then in turn deliver a tag up to the SCADA software application. And last but not least, one of the things that is also utilized extensively is the ability to take this management interface of this switch and incorporate it into the RS Logix 5000 platform, as well as the Step 7 software application. So obviously for Allen Bradley we have Ethernet IP, and for Siemens we have the Profinet Step 7. It's just a matter of enabling this, downloading the EDS file, and we also have the necessary add-on instructions. It is a very easy way of integrating switch management and awareness directly into the Ars Logic software. And last but not least, also for those that are looking to do the CLI, we have the ability to do CLI directly through this web interface as well, in addition to opening up an interface session with either PuTTY or something such as TerraTerm. So this was a very quick walkthrough. I hope it's been beneficial. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.